Okay, so what sort of arguments do you use to show that it's necessary?
Well, typically whenever we're talking about what is moral, I think we're talking about what we have reason to do impartially. And for reasons to exist, we have to talk about some type of experience, feel something to be there. Whenever we're talking about specifically qualia existing, when we're talking about the things that motivate us, what gives us reason to do a given action, when I take a look at what makes me want to do things and what seems to be definitional about wanting to do things, there's some experience, there's some goodness there, right? When we say something is good, we are referring to it being like there being reason to do it. And if we're talking about what gives us reason to do given things, it seems to always base out in qualia.
Okay, so it seems like you have some background beliefs there in terms of what reasons are. It seems like you're affirming some type of reasons internalist view, and you say that the only way in which it makes sense to even talk about moral evaluation is just something that, requires a type of experience. It's essentially your view, correct?
One more time? Sorry.
Okay, did you hear what I said, or do you want me to recap everything that I said?
I want you to repeat what you just said.
Okay, so I just gave a recap of your view. Just tell me if I'm incorrect or correct.
I want you to repeat what you just said. Did you just say that?
So what I said was, yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Is this a hard thing for you to do? Is repeat what you just said? Did you forget?
Just relax, buddy. Just relax.
Because you're trying to be rhetorical. I just asked you to repeat what you said, and then you refused to do so.
The question that I asked you was, is it the case on your view that you have these sort of background beliefs about reasons there, and you just take some internalist view?
I have background beliefs about reasons.
Yeah, as in
I have some background beliefs about reasons.
Okay, stop talking so I can tell you the recapitulation.
Do you want me to answer the question?
Your view. You can answer after I'm done asking you the question, right?
Sorry, was there more to the question?
Yeah, that's typically what people...
Okay, what adds to the question?
Right. I don't know why you're talking over me, right?
Because I'm asking you a question.
Generally, I don't know why you're asking me a question in the middle of me asking you a question.
Because you said you had to answer my questions. Seems like you'll answer my questions when I ask them.
And you're doing it again, still talking over me.
Yeah, because you just answered my question.
Right. So the question was very simple, right? Is it the case then, on your view, that the only the only way it makes sense even for you to talk about reasons or motivations for why we should or we shouldn't act in accordance with some system or some normative rule is something that actually requires experience? Is that the sort of view that you adopt?
Yes.
Okay, now, is it the case then that on your view...
so there's no extra to what you said? And there was no extra to the question?
There actually is.
When I answered the question, it was correct. When I said yes, there was a correct answer to the question.
You have like a really, really nasty tendency of cutting people off before they finish their statements, and then you make prejudgments about what they say. You have a nasty
tendency of just monologuing for ages rather than getting to the fucking point.
Especially when you don't want to consider yourself autistic, right? That's like what normal people don't do.
No, I'm being mean to you because you were just an asshole to somebody else in a voice chat. I'm giving you a taste of your own medicine. This is what it feels like. It feels really shitty, doesn't it?
We got Batman in the call. We got Batman, thanks. Now, anyways.
No, I ain't Batman. I'm just being mean to you.
Yeah. But
it doesn't take somebody who's big and strong to be mean to you, you little bitch.
Bunk is here to save the city, guys. He's here to save the city. Okay. Now, anyways,
anything back?
Is it the case on your view? Is it the case on your view? Is it the case on your view that in order for you to be a person, you have to be the type of thing that has, some mental life or something?
In order to be a person, you have to be something that has some mental life or something. Is that what you just said?
Yes, that's the question.
What the fuck does that mean?
You don't know what a mental life is?
No, a mental life or something. I don't know what that means. No.
I said a mental life or something is what I said. Is that unclear?
To be something of a person of a mental life or something.
Oh, that's actually not what I said, so I'll just go ahead and repeat it.
Okay, go ahead and repeat it without saying or something over and over again.
I don't know why you
I don't know what or something means. It's really unspecific is my point. That's wildly unspecific. Yes, or something is going to be like, of course, yes.
I don't know why you just autistic.
Or something else, yeah, of course.
Holy shit, dude. This is actually going to be so insufferable. Okay. I don't know why.
You're just insufferable as fucking a voice chat with somebody else. I don't know why you don't like it when it happens to you.
Yeah. Batman comes out again. I forgot. You're Batman.
No, you're just a bitch. You're somebody who throws shit and can't take it.
Oh my God. I'm a bitch. Oh my God. Yeah, that was really rhetorical.
Yeah, that's right. Repeat it back to me. Call yourself a bitch for me. That's right.
Plus 10 rhetorical points for you there. Good job. Now, anyways, right? Is it the case on your view that what it means to be a person is just something that has a mental life? Yes or no? Which one is it?
That has a mental life? What does that mean?
Oh, okay, so the answer to my question previously would have been no, you don't know what the fuck a mental life is, right? Generally, whenever we're talking about a mental life, type of subjea or conglomeration of experiences.
Type of subjea or some conglomeration?
Sorry. Usually
that's right, you should be sorry.
Like a conglomeration or a collection of experiences or something alike to experiences. Is that the sort of view that you take, yes or no?
No. Or something alike to experiences? No.
Okay, so then what does it mean to be a person on your view? Just go ahead and give me the necessary and sufficient conditions for what it means to be a person.
I'm a reductionist on persons.
You're a reductionist on persons,
Yes.
meaning...
Yeah, meaning I don't think persons exist over time. I think that whenever we talk about persons, we have a bunch of inclusive and exclusive conditions which seem to contradict each other.
Okay, so you think, all theories of personal identity are systematically false? Is that what you think?
Yeah, most of them are. Well, not all theories of personal identity, because obviously, like, things like reductionism on personal identity is a theory of personal identity.
Okay, but you think most theories of personal identity are false?
Yes, as anybody who has any view on personal identity does.
Okay, and so you don't actually think there's something that connects, let's just say, for lack of a better term, the person that you are today and the person that you were, let's just say, 5 years ago?
It's a social fiction.
Okay, so what's the argument that, this sort of or at least most theories of personal identity are actually false?
Well, now your personal identity theory. What's your personal identity theory?
Sorry, the question was, what's the argument?
Yeah, for each one, there's an argument. There's an argument. All of them entail a contradiction. That's the argument in favor of that.
Wait,
but I can't give an argument against all theories of personal
What?
identity. No, I can't. They're all individual and specific personal identity theories.
Okay, so you're saying that your answer is going to be just indexical, is what you're saying?
Yeah, it's going to be indexed to the given identity theory that you're talking about, of course.
Okay.
But it's hard to give an argument against every other view of any given thing, right? There's a bunch of theories for something. You're going to be able to give an argument against all of those. It's very obvious why I wouldn't be able to do that.
Sure, that's fine. I guess what's your objections to, like, let's just say somebody adopts like an animalist theory of personal identity. Do you have any particular objections to that view?
Yeah, an analyst theory of personal identity. Yeah, whenever you're trying to take them, for example, like a given organism or whatnot. Now you take an organism over a given period of time. All of their cells tend to swap out. Whenever we're trying to base in the aseity of it, and given one of those atoms, they all base out in the same kind of way. We have the same problems with aseity.
Sorry, I didn't hear that last portion of what you said. You have to repeat.
Yeah, so any way that you base out something being the same animal over time is going to have the same problem with aseity. That just being that if for some reason somebody had like all of their items swapped out or something like that, like I do every 7 years, that's not actually going to break somebody's personal identity. You'd say that they still are the same person. And so given the organisms aren't going to be like the same thing over time, when you base out an organism, you're kind of begging the question of what it means to be the same organism over time. There's no justification for that.
You're trying to say that the animalist theory is it's circular. That's the sort of objection that you're raising.
It's the objection that I just raised. Yeah.
Okay, and it's circular in virtue of what exactly?
In virtue of the fact that you are trying to base it out in something being the same animal over time. And the same animal over time is all the same problems that I just mentioned. Right? What it makes it the same animal over time.
Well, okay, so you're saying that it's begging the question because...
Can you answer the question of that? What makes the same animal over time?
Are you asking me?
What makes you the same animal over time?
Are you asking me? Sorry, just calm down. Are you asking me if I think that?
I'm very calm right now. I just asked you a single question.
Yeah, I know. When I say calm down, that means stop.
Trying to seem nonchalant doesn't make it seem like you're not avoiding the question.
Well, I don't know why you said that as you try to be nonchalant just now, right? But anyways,
because I asked the question, I'm not trying to avoid it.
Sorry, there's a very wonderful concept called clarifying questions, right? I don't know if you've heard of it, or maybe
which question you clarified.
Right? So the clarifying question here is: are you asking me that if I think, or excuse me, what I think constitutes a person on the animal?
What question do you need clarified?
That was what I just asked you right before you interrupted me. Right?
Yeah, which question?
Interrupted me. Yeah. So the clarifying question that I'm asking you right now is with respect to the last question that you asked me previously, right? So now the clarifying question.
What was it? Show me you remember it. What was it?
Sorry, what? You're asking me like what was
the
last
question? Yeah, what was the last question I asked? Show me you remember it.
Why would that be relevant?
Because you're not trying to get clarity on it. You're not even trying to answer the question. You don't fucking remember it. If you were trying to get clarity on the question, you would know which question you're confused on.
Do you think that it's like a rhetorical point for you to demonstrate that? If I'm asking
yes, obviously it is. If you're not paying attention to the conversation enough to even listen to the question, you're trying to avoid it.
I'm really glad that you think that was.
You're obviously trying to avoid the question. If you weren't trying to avoid the question and actually get clarity on it, you would remember which question you're trying to get clarity on.
Right. So the question here is
yes, trivially.
Which
question are you trying to get clarity on? Do you remember it yet?
The clarifying question is this, right? Are you asking me if I think that on an analyst thesis about identity, that are you asking?
Sorry, did you say the question you're trying to get clarity on yet?
You're asking me what constitutes an identity on an analyst thesis. Is that what you're asking me, or are you asking me something else?
No, that's not the question that I asked. See, this is why you need clarity in the question. You're not even paying attention to the questions that you're being asked. This is what happens when you try to avoid a question constantly.
Asking me something else. What's the question that you're
asking?
Yeah,
the question I asked is what makes you the same organism over time. Do you remember that? Now you remember that I've said it?
Just to be clear, okay, so then you are asking me, like what are the persistence conditions on an animalist view, is essentially what you're asking me?
No. I'm asking you what makes you the same organism over time. That's a different question.
Sorry, you're asking me, just to be clear, you understand that right now...
Just to be clear, you're not answering my question, you're just yapping. Just to be clear, you're still trying to avoid the question, just to be very clear.
Just to be clear.
It's obvious to everybody else in the voice chat you're trying to avoid the question when you don't answer it. If you're not trying to avoid the question, then just answer it.
Nobody's actually convinced of your rhetorical tactics.
Okay, just answer it then.
Maybe, right? So
no, it's obvious. It's obvious to everybody else. In a rhetorical tactic, it's called keeping you to the fucking question.
Get clarified on the
question. Give me the answer to the question. Stop avoiding it. What are you doing?
So
this is the rhetorical tactic, and it's not working. Drop it. Drop doing the rhetorical tactic. You've been called on it. Now stop doing this because you're trying to avoid the question. You're not giving me an answer to my question. I don't want to hear the app.
Why is this guy talking?
I want you to get to the fucking point. I only have so much time, as I said earlier.
You expect to have a substantive debate if you're just going to keep talking over me?
Yeah, okay. I expect to have a substantive debate. A substantive debate is answering the fucking questions you're asked.
Clear on whether or not I can actually answer your question sufficiently is this, right? Are you asking me what I think makes
this is the one that you were trying to ask for clarity on, you remember.
Are you asking me what I think, persists throughout time on an analyst view? Which one are you asking me?
I'm asking you what makes you the same person over time.
Oh yeah, sure. So generally, I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of like a little bit agnostic insofar as personal identity, but I'm perfectly.
So you're not even sure. You've got no idea.
Fine with defending like an animalist view, and which, by the way,
so you've got no idea about personal identity. You're not sure. The answer is you're not sure. So this is why you were trying to avoid the question because you didn't know.
Right now, generally, on an analyst view, the sort of thing that counts as the type of thing that persists throughout time is just going to be the sort of functional unity of the organism. Right.
The functional unity of the organism. So let me give you this example real quick.
That persists throughout time. Whenever you're talking about a sort of analysis,
right? I understand. No, without all the yap, I understand. The second that you finish that, okay, the unity of the entity. Okay. So let's say we take like a teletransporter case. Let's say we take a case where listen, stop talking.
Wait, by the way, why did you shift?
Listen, stop fucking talking. I'm going to give you a case, and you're going to tell me whether you think the personal identity is persistent there. What are you doing? You finally answered the question. Now you're scared of the follow-up question. You're terrified of the follow-up question. You're running like a motherfucker right now.
It doesn't sound so nice when somebody's talking over you, does it?
I'm being very mean to you right now. That's right. I'm being very mean to you.
Really?
Yes, I'm going to continue to talk over you until you allow me to ask the question, until you stop running like a motherfucker.
You've all of a sudden...
Yeah, I know you're going to continue to talk over me. You want to run away. It's very obvious to everybody else you want to run away. I've pointed it out multiple times in the conversation. You're too autistic to understand that everybody else knows you're running away right now. It's obvious that you are. I'm going to give you the teletransporter case. You can look it up if you really want to. Maybe you can then stop trying to avoid the question. You feel like you have enough time to answer it. To think about the answer that you want to have. This is terrible. What are you doing?
Everybody knows what
the fuck is wrong with you?
Anybody who understands anything about personal identity would not be surprised by these types of questions. That's the first.
Okay, go ahead and tell me the question I'm going to ask.
I don't know why you tried to be rhetorical.
Go ahead and tell me the question I was going to ask.
Secondly, right?
Yeah, here comes the yap to avoid the fucking question. You're not doing well right now.
Even if you can call it
yap. Drop the little rhetorical strategy. Try and have a conversation with me like a normal person. This is what makes you bomb conversations.
I know you want to believe that it's yap, but that's sadly not true, right?
No, it clearly is yap, because I was just about to ask you a question the same way that I asked you a question earlier, and you just continue talking to try and avoid answering it just to say that you weren't sure.
The animalist thesis can't actually answer.
Right, it's very obvious what you're doing right now. It's not working.
That the animalist thesis can't answer part of it.
I've never seen someone try and do so much rhetoric and fall so flat with it. Holy shit. I'm going to try and ask you a question. It's very obvious I'm trying to ask you a question. It's very obvious you're trying to run away from the question I'm asking.
Failed to explain those phenomenon. It's
blah, blah, blah.
That reductionism about personal identity is actually true, right? So these questions that you're asking me here is entirely irrelevant.
What is going on? What's this podcast I've joined into? We were supposed to be debating each other. What's going on?
Now you can respond. Go ahead.
I'm not trying to respond. I'm trying to ask you a question. I wasn't listening to a damn word you said to try and avoid my question. I want you to answer the question I'm going to ask. Now, the question I was going to ask you before you interrupted me was, let's say it's the case that yap. Here comes the avoidance of the question again. You're trying to nonchalant. Doesn't make it look like you're not panicking right now. It looks like you're panicking like a motherfucker. You look like you had a rhetorical strategy against me, and the second you have a little bit of pushback, you crumble apart. It's brutal.
You need me to repeat the question, or the statement?
I don't need to repeat the question. I haven't asked the question yet. The question I've been trying to ask for this entire time, this entire yap session. Listen, everybody else can just look it up. You're going to ask in the teletransporter cases that comes from reasons and persons. Everybody else can just look it up, okay?
You need me to respond respond? Do you need me to repeat what I
Well,
said?
they're
Or do you
perfect.
actually understand?
No, I don't need you to repeat the
These
gap
sort of
that you're having to try and
response I
avoid
gave.
the question. It's very obvious what's happening here.
Okay, so you didn't actually hear the response that I gave you.
You're
So I'll
right.
just go
I
ahead
was
and
not
repeat
trying to listen to a
the
single
response
thing that
I
was a
gave you,
response because the question
Even
wasn't
if it
asked
was
yet.
the case, hold on, just calm down, retard.
The question wasn't asked yet. You're not responding to the question the same way that you didn't fucking remember the question you were trying to get clarity on earlier. Right? You don't listen to a damn question that's being asked. You don't even know if the question's been asked yet.
Just go ahead and calm down, okay? Now, even if it
Why
was
are
the
you telling
case,
me to calm down? You're the one who's been running away from
or
the
you know
question.
what? By the way, there's several different defenses of animalism, right? But even if it was the case that the animalist thesis in all
Listen,
its forms,
I will.
even if all
I'll
forms of
listen to whatever
animalism
yap
failed-
sesh you have, and then I won't respond to it. I'm just
Good
going to
boy.
ask you the
Good
question.
boy.
Is that okay?
Good boy. Yeah, good boy. Good. I like that. Just keep doing that. Right?
I'm good for following what I just said I was going to do. What's wrong with you?
Wait, why
What the
can't
fuck
you
is wrong
answer
with
the
you?
question?
Why can't you talk to me like that?
Just calm down. Just calm down. Wait, 12. You're actually.
This
like,
is fucking brutal.
So look.
This is
so look,
sad.
so
I
look.
have like 20 minutes to debate, and you've like ran time almost already. Is this what you're trying to do? You know I have limited time to debate, so you're trying to run so that the bell can strike and you can get saved?
It's completely
Is that what's up
irrelevant.
here?
And I'm going to explain why your question is
Do I
completely
understand the
irrelevant.
strategy? Is that the
What
strategy
happened-
here?
Hey. You were supposed to be on quiet mode so I can actually give my quote unquote yap sesh, remember?
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, go ahead. Do your app session. I'm sorry.
Good boy. Just like that, right? So look,
You're so weird.
I'm going to explain to you why exactly your question that you're asking me, which you keep insisting and trying to get these rhetorical tactics on how I'm not answering the question, doesn't actually work. And it's actually completely irrelevant right now, right? I'll tell you why. Now,
So the unity of the entity is what makes it.
Go back.
What makes it.
Go back on
What
quiet
makes
mode.
it the same over time.
Doggy. Go back on quiet mode. Relax, right? Now,
Am I
look.
right on that?
The reason why your question is completely irrelevant.
Can I just get clear on that?
Even if it was the case that
No.
all forms of animalism
Just another question
failed
that won't be
to
asked.
address the teletransporter cases,
Throw it in the
even if
bucket.
it was the case that all forms of animalism failed to address the brain swap cases, whether or not they failed to address all of these sort of thought experiments that people give in personal identity literature, even if it was the case that animalism failed to explain all of these phenomenon, it still would not be the case that reductionism is de facto true, right? So your questions that you're going to ask me right now
Well,
about
because it's de
animalist-
facto true. It's evidence
and how-
against it.
and how
Right?
the
It's not
analysts-
deductively true. Right? Depending on how you
okay.
answer the question, it's just gonna be evidence
okay.
against it.
Okay, so it would be evidence against animalism.
Yeah, so you're not going to answer the question that I
Actually,
asked, though, right? The one that I was going to ask, you're not going to answer it.
Now you can ask me your question. Sure, go ahead.
Oh, so you weren't going to answer it with any of that. None of that answered the question. To be very clear,
Oh, it actually
that was
did.
none of
No,
that
no.
answered the question like you said it was going to.
You understand how I just explained how any question that you're about to ask me
Listen,
about
maybe this
how
works in
well-
like anime debate servers or
Wait, hold
something.
on.
It doesn't
Why-
really
why
work
is
with normal
I
people.
Okay, you understand that what I just explained to you, or what I just said, was an explanation for why your questions are actually irrelevant. to
Whether
the truth.
irrelevant, you think the question is
Right.
completely irrelevant to the case?
Yeah, I
of
think
personal
it's
identity?
irrelevant. Yeah, I think it's
Whether in a
irrelevant
certain
so
case
far
somebody's the
as-
same person over time would be
well, I think
irrelevant
it's
to the cases of
irrelevant.
personal
I think
identity and the
it's
theories on
no,
which?
that's not what I'm
No,
saying.
that's
That's a
all that
wonderful
personal identity
straw
tries to
man.
address.
That's a wonderful straw man, but that's exactly not what I'm saying, right? I'm saying
Okay,
that it's
so you're
irrelevant.
not saying that it's irrelevant to the
I'm
case of
saying
personal
that it's
identity. Is that relevant
irrelevant.
to the theories of personal
Saying that
identity?
look,
To be
I don't
clear
know
then?
if you have like tracking skill. I don't know if you have like tracking issues. Or
I don't know if you have
something,
the skill to answer
saying
fucking
that-
questions directly.
saying that it's not. I'm saying that it's irrelevant insofar as it doesn't actually, give evidence in favor of like some reductionist view about personal identity, right?
It doesn't give evidence in favor of some
yeah, it would not
reductionist
be
view
evidence-
of personal
would not be
identity.
evidence in favor of
Yeah, it gives evidence in favor of a bunch of different views of personal identity.
Oh,
Right,
nice.
them in
Okay, so now-
collective all give strong evidence for one view of personal identity, right? Then collective, they all give evidence. It's a cumulative case of using multiple different
nice,
points of evidence.
nice,
That's true.
nice,
But
nice,
in this
nice.
given particular case, you're asking me to argue against something, not to argue for reductionism personal identity. That's what you asked.
I don't know. I don't know.
I'm not sure if you remember, but that's what we were going down
Wait, sorry,
specifically.
I don't know if you remember the conversation, but your answer.
No, I do remember the conversation. You asked me to argue against all of the other views, and then I said I couldn't give an argument against all of the other views. I could give an argument against one specifically at any given time.
You're on a timer. You got 5 more minutes, so use your time wisely. Okay?
Yeah, I know. You're trying to run the clock. You're counting it. You're hoping and praying that it goes down.
No, I think you're the
You're
one
just trying to avoid the actual subject matter. Do you have any critiques of my argument against abortion?
The entire time you've been speaking over me and introducing the meta into the conversation.
No,
right?
the entire time
Look,
I've been trying to keep you on a single subject matter. I've been trying to get you to answer the questions which are very relevant to the actual subject matter of the conversation. And then the that has come through me pointing out that you're trying to avoid the actual subject matter of the conversation.
Identity and how
You
animalism.
want to go on a yak session, you want to talk about something else related to the topic rather than addressing what I'm saying on it.
Completely irrelevant to whether or not reductionism is true about personal identity, right?
I don't think you remember. Again, you asked me specifically to argue against animalism. That's what we're going down right now. We're arguing against animalism,
right? That's the sort of argument that you would actually have to give if you think that the reductionism view about personal identity is actually more likely to be true, right? So now
I'm sorry. Do you remember what we were arguing about? Do you remember that we were specifically going against animalism?
No, this guy's actually retarded, bro. I can't do this, dude. You're actually dumb.
100%. 100%.
You might be the most retarded person I've ever seen. Right?
Yep.
Like, look,
100%.
do you understand the sort
Listen,
of...
there's a reason these are using actual philosophy.
Hold on, wait, guys.
Actual philosophy.
Yes.
You okay? And so I was gonna say that we can add like a time extension. Okay, how about that?
Sure, we can do a time extension.
I really can't. My grandmother sleeps the same time. That's not how this works.
Yeah, so look,
I've only got limited time to be talking over somebody as they avoid my questions.
all I'm saying here, look.
Okay, so I can just get this. I can get this conversation on track, right? If you guys want that to happen.
Oh my God! Please, Apollo, please get the conversation on track.
Yeah, do you guys want to do this like rhetorical measure?
Apollo, please help me out. Please help me out, Apollo.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, beg more, man. I'm just playing. So who? That was okay. Who was actually going first? Really? Who was asking the question first? What's the point?
We're supposed to be talking.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe this is what we need to do to get the conversation back on track.
Here he goes again.
Can I pitch something to Apollo specifically? I'm not talking to you right now. Okay, Apollo. So, listen. We were supposed to be talking about abortion. Is there anything that can we not just accept the social fiction of personal identity? This feels like an entire side tangent away from abortion.
Yeah, I think like even the personal identity is not something which exists. You can just take it to be something which is a fiction and just go on.
And then we can just continue conversation.
Yeah, so the reason
maybe you want to say, or maybe you want to give like an inductive argument or something, like people are generally moral. I don't know.
Well, here's the deal.
I'm not quite sure what the relevance is.
What I asked him previously, Apollo, was what he takes person to mean, right? Whether or not he thinks that there are necessary and sufficient conditions for what it means to be a person. And he said that he was a reductionist about personal identity. Okay, cool. And then
we're talking about abortion, yeah.
And then I asked you, what's the sort of evidence for this reductionist view about personal identity, right? And your answer was that you said your answer was going to be indexical. It was going to be based on the sort of theory that's being presented about personal identity, since you hold the view that most...
Yeah, the arguments, I can't argue against all of them at once. Right. Yeah, and this is what to do with abortion? Again, we just went with Apollo. I'm not sure if you listened to what Apollo just said.
So I'm going to finish it out saying, I'll tell you exactly how this has to do with abortion, right?
Can you tell me what it has to do with what Apollo said?
My point that I was making when I gave the response back to you was that even if it was the case that all forms of animalism failed to answer teletransporter cases, even if it was the case that all forms of animalism failed to answer brain transplant cases or parfait fission cases, whatever you want to call it, it would not be the case that that's evidence in favor of reductionism, right? You have to actually give a type of argument that demonstrates...
No, again, I've already responded to this. I've already responded to this with a composite case. Yes, we've already responded to this. This is already done. Listen, we just said that... Holy shit, please listen to Apollo. It's Apollo's fucking server. Have some respect. Holy shit. Again, we have limited time. Have respect for other people. You have respect for me and my time, that's fine. It doesn't fucking matter. I have very little respect for you back. But hopefully with respect for Apollo, to listen to what Apollo just said. Do you remember what Apollo said? That we could just continue. Do you remember any of that?
Yeah. So I'm just gonna do this, right? So let's see. I think that we can. Okay, so here's one. You guys can take 2 turns on the personal identity point, and if you guys don't progress on this point, nor is it established to have a relevant connection to the primary.
We've already run 10 minutes past the time I even have to be doing this, to be honest.
Yeah, but the majority of the time, okay, so how about 1 turn?
Yeah, I don't get, again, the majority of the time can be spent on whatever. That's why I'm saying we should just get back to the abortion case. Right? Again, it doesn't really matter to me. This is a real life thing for me. It's a real life limitation I have when debating somebody.
Okay, gotcha. So let's get back to the abortion thing. Let's just, start over again. You can just get things wrong.
Yeah, we can get off the fucking side tangent. So
yeah, let's go. So
what's the argument they have against the pro-sentience view? What's the line? What's the deal?
Oh, I was actually more interested in your arguments for the pro-sentience view, which we didn't really finish. So,
Do you have any argument against it in particular?
It depends on how the pro-sentience view is laid out. So you can go ahead and lay it
so
out.
it's contingent on how the pro-sentience view is laid out. Okay, so you know what my pro-sentience view is, right?
Yes. So I think, and correct
Okay,
me
so
if I'm wrong.
based on that view, what's your argument? against it?
I wasn't done, right? So if I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, but your view says something like, generally, we think that, the types of things that we ascribe moral value to are just the types of things that have either a capacity or that they are experiencing.
Not
correct?
like no, not the things that we generally ascribe moral value to. I'm saying that very specifically, the thing that gives us reason to do something is the good quality, the motivating quality. These are definitionally like the same. These are
Okay,
reasons.
okay. So you're saying that some action is good, and
Yeah, it counts in favor of it if it's a good.
Wait, sorry. Okay,
Feels
look,
good.
it's not going to work if you just keep talking over me, right?
Well, I'm trying to explain my view because that's the thing that's
I don't know
contingent on
why
what
you're
your
trying to
argument against
explain
it
it. Yeah,
is.
I know
and
you're
it just
trying to
seems like
explain
you
your
have some
view, but
unclarity on my
usually,
view.
like when you try to explain your view in the middle of people asking you questions, then it actually introduces confusion in the conversation.
You mean like
right?
what you did earlier, right?
Yeah, I was doing that. Absolutely.
Okay. Just
And the
make
reason
sure.
why-
Continue that.
The reason
Yeah.
why I was doing that was
No, I don't want to hear the reason you were doing that. I don't want to hear why it's okay when
Well,
you
I
do
know
it.
don't
I just want to
it, but
hear
I'm
you
still gonna say it
to give me
anyways. I
the
don't really care
question.
what you want to. Yeah, I know you don't want to hear it, but I'm still going to say it anyways. I don't really
Just
care
give
what
me
you
the
want to hear.
question,
right?
please. Again, let's
So-
not waste time on this.
The question then is that, are you saying that they have to have a capacity to have experiences, or are you just saying that they must currently be having experiences? Which one is it?
Oh, it's the experiences themselves. So that's what gives us. So they can have the capacity for experience in the future, and that would give you like reason to give some like moral credence to it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So if it's the case then that some fetus is on trajectory, let's just say, or they have some, let's just call it perfective inclination towards having sensory experiences or sensory
When you say
capacities, then
that
it would be the
inclination
case.
word. No.
Yeah, all I
does that
mean
mean?
by perfective inclination, there's just the type of trajectory by which the being is moving toward or changing toward, for lack of a better word. We don't really have to get too much into the deep.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
metaphysics
there's
there,
like this
right?
that it's
So-
like there is some general progression towards through like past things that have happened.
Yeah. That's
And when we say
generally
being, what
people
does that mean?
When I say what?
And we say being, what does that mean?
Oh, yeah. So generally, I just take being to signify some type of objects that exists. So insofar as it exists, then it has being.
Some type of object that exists.
Yeah, some type of
So
object.
if there are like many things that are like a part of the object, these are all things that also give like the inclination
Well,
towards,
that
correct?
depends on like your view. Wait, sorry. Repeat that last part again.
Yeah, let's say that there's like many things that go towards this one object, right? There's like many things that like make up every given, like any given object that you have, right? When we call something an object, we're making some statement about the world. Right? This is different from other things. This, not that.
Okay, so if you're asking me, like, in what sense we mean when we refer to objects in the world, that might be a question about the sort of, you might ask a question about the sort of identity predication that you're making there about the object, or you might ask a question about the sort of things that compose the object. I think those things are completely irrelevant to the topic of conversation right now. I don't really think.
No, it's just a term that you use in your argument, so it's going to be relevant.
Well,
right?
no,
it's
the
relevant
reason
to your
why-
argument because you
that's
just
not what-
used it. In the
Yeah,
argument.
that's not really what I'm saying. So when I say that it's irrelevant to the
So it
conversation,
wasn't what you were saying. You didn't use the term being or not
I'm saying that
doing that, or
you said. I'm saying that your response to what I just said is not what I
Okay.
said, right? So don't try to be
my
slick.
response to what you just said is not what you said.
Yes, exactly, right. It's a
That
strong
would be my
enough-
response to what you just said.
So what I said, or at least what I was trying to say before,
That would be what I was saying. Yeah.
was that
I wasn't trying to repeat back.
questions about whether or not there are, I don't know, let's just say mereological composites, or that, mereological nihilism is true, whether or not objects really have an identity, whether there's a distinction between their act and potency. All of these metaphysics here are not exactly relevant to the conversation right now.
Well, no,
right?
there's certain things that I do think are
I'm
relevant.
interested in right now. Wait, sorry. What I'm interested in right now.
Okay, you can be sorry all you want. I just want to make sure. Like, I want to make sure that we know what's clear. Because I have to have the conversation efficiently because I don't want to be.
I didn't
doing
know
the
that I was
little
done talking,
fit.
right? So, anyways,
Well, I don't really care whether you're done talking just yet. I want to make clear what I'm trying to get down.
What's really
I
important.
want to just make clear what I'm trying to get down. The part
What's really
that's
important
relevant
here
to
right
me
now
here
is your view about experiences.
I'm trying to show you why I think it's relevant. It's okay.
It's the case that
You just said it was irrelevant. I'm trying to show you why I think it's relevant. You're doing the filibuster thing's not going to work.
Sorry, just calm down.
Listen, we already are running my time like a motherfucker. You are like wasting all the time in the goddamn world. Is it just like eventually I just have to leave the voice chat? I guess like
the reason why
I look like I'm owned or something. I'm trying to show you why I think it's
your
relevant.
time is being run right now is because you keep consistently interrupting me, right?
No, you just said what I said was irrelevant.
What is
now I'm trying to
relevant
tell you
here?
why it's relevant.
What is
in
relevant
my mind.
here
And
right now
I think we'll
is whether or
like not go on another side tangent about conversation.
whether or
If you
not
just understand.
the types of
I'm
things-
trying to
Yo,
now be
oh
cordial
my
with you and make
gosh,
sure that you understand why I think it's relevant.
Stop talking, my guy. Holy
So
shit.
can I just tell you why I think it's relevant real quick?
No, you can say that after I'm done talking
No.
and making my
okay.
point.
So
Okay?
cool.
Yeah,
you
you can
go
say
on,
that.
make whatever point you've got to make, and then I'm gonna go right back. We're gonna come back in the conversation, and I'm gonna try and show you why I think that's relevant.
Fantastic. Great.
Okay.
So the reason why, or at least what I'm more interested in right now, is whether or not, on your view, the types of things that have, let's just say, the sort of perfective inclination towards sensory activities and sensory experience, are also the types of things that count as morally considerable, or if they're not, which one is it, in your view?
Yeah, so the thing that I was trying to get clear on there was that whenever we're talking about something being conceived, right, there's also these two other things, like the sperm and the egg, which are both relevant, right? They're both things that are on trajectory too, right, in some sense, right? We have to say that at some point it becomes a singular being, right? This singular being exists at this given point in time. And so that's why I think it's relevant to talk about where beings exist and what makes up a being. Right, what makes it up this individual thing, this not that.
Yeah, so
that's why it's relevant.
Generally, like the sort of distinction that there's really a few distinctions that people want to draw between, like, let's just say a sperm and let's say like a fertilized egg, for example, right? They might just say that there's a trait that's true of, let's just say, a zygote that isn't true of a sperm, that being of personal identity. It might be the case that there's a distinguishing sort of potency in both genes. When you say that the sperm is on trajectory,
so
it's very important to wait. Sorry, I'm not done.
I just want you to repeat what you said. Because my headphones cut out. I've got a shoddy headphone cord. It just like cuts you out for a little bit.
Oh, you have garbage headphones that your grandma got you?
No, it's a shoddy headphone cord. I actually bought it myself, and it's going out because I just I haven't replaced it in a while.
Oh, okay.
Dog, I don't know why. This is just not productive to the conversation.
Yeah, totally. I get it. Yeah.
The entire thing you're doing here is completely unproductive to the conversation.
I can repeat what I said for you, totally. So what I said was there's really three types.
Good boy.
There's really like three types. I don't know why you're trying to use my rhetoric now. That's like
really because it's fucking weird. It's a weird thing to be doing.
It's weird,
I'm mocking you for it.
I'm
mocking you for it. Yeah, it's called mocking.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. So, anyways, right. The question that I was the statement that I made rather was this, right? There's a few types of distinctions that you can draw. You can draw one of personal identity. You can draw a type of distinction in which the sort of zygote is considered like a mereological composite, and the sperm is not. You might draw a distinction based on a sort of substantial change that occurs at conception.
So, mereological composite. I'm not sure what that means.
You might also draw a distinction.
I'm not sure what one of your terms means. Can I get clarity on one of your terms?
Sorry, you don't know what mereological composite is?
No, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, so generally when people are talking about mereological composites, all they mean to say is that there's a sort of object in the world that's composed of parts that constitute a whole, and also they might take the view that
composed of parts that constitute one whole thing. Yeah.
Yes. And usually, and also they might say, might say something like. They might say that this object has like some set of actual unmanifested properties that are true of the object or something like that. But that's not really even relevant to the conversation right now. The conversation about mereology. Now, the question,
I'm curious about.
So when you said, let me.
Is it not relevant at all
to
the subject? Because it's a term that you use, and you keep saying that these things are like irrelevant now.
No, I'm saying
when I try and dig deeper into any of the terms that you use, now you say that they're irrelevant. Those are irrelevant things. These are completely irrelevant to the subject matter. In which case, I'm not sure why the terms are even being used.
Well, the reason why it's irrelevant insofar as we're discussing whether or not the types of things that count as having a trajectory, let's just say, or an inclination towards these things that you care about, are also the types of things that count as morally valuable, right? So it's relevant to that point.
What are those things are also the things that count as morally valuable? I'm sorry, one more time.
Yeah. So it's irrelevant to this point. It's irrelevant insofar as we're trying to figure out whether or not the types of objects that also have this sort of perfective inclination towards these sensory activities or sensory experiences that you care about are also morally valuable, right? Now, you mentioned something previously that I want to
let me address. ways.
Let me address.
Okay, you can go on to another point. You can go and shotgun off another point. Yeah, go on.
Well, no, it's not another point. It's actually completely relevant to the point that you made previously. I've been trying to make this point for a while, right?
Oh, okay. So it's another point. It's another point. Not the point you just made. It's another point.
Okay, cool. You mentioned earlier.
What the fuck was that one?
Nice. So you mentioned a point earlier. You said that a sperm is also on trajectory to achieve these things or whatever. You might take a distinction between the type of potential that the sperm has and the type of potential that the fertilized egg does, right?
Yeah,
you might take a distinction between the active.
Kind of. I'm curious about the active passive potential thing. That's the thing I'm curious about. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
that's the thing that I think was relevant. That was the thing that we thought was relevant like ages ago, right? And the thing we said that was irrelevant.
It's actually so. If you thought that you were talking about active and passive potential, why'd you start asking me questions about meteorological composition?
Because that's also relevant. There are other things which are also relevant.
Oh, okay. Okay. Cool. So, do you want to talk about
these things are relevant together?
We talk about
that something has active or passive potential in virtue of its meteorological composition. Based on how you define these things.
Not necessarily. I don't think that.
These are traits of a given thing.
Okay, so you're saying that a sort of active potential is something that's true of a meteorological composite?
Yeah, it seems like that would be the case, no?
Yeah, sure.
There's a different term? Okay, so that was all relevant. Gotcha, okay. Yeah. Just making sure I was right on that, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the type of distinction that you can draw. So to say that the sperm is on trajectory, by the way, to achieve these things would just be false. Because it is not
sometimes they are on trajectory, right?
Okay, so then what do you mean when you say
that is the case sometimes? Would you not say?
Well, what do you mean when you say that it's the case that they're on trajectory to achieve these things in the future?
In virtue of the same way that like a fertilized egg might be a sperm that is about to fertilize an egg would be on trajectory.
Okay, so the claim wasn't.
So like just come in your mom's pussy, right? And it's like she's incredibly fertile, right? She's very breedable. It is on the case that sperm is in trajectory to fertilize the egg.
Okay, so first of all, that wasn't rhetorical. But secondly, whenever you talk about,
secondly, that was not rhetorical.
That shit was kind of rhetorical, though.
So anyway, secondly, whenever you talk about,
come on.
Secondly, whenever you're talking about, let's just say, first of all, you said that sperm might be on trajectory to combine with an egg or something like this, right?
Yeah.
The claim wasn't whether or not sperm is on trajectory. Sorry. The claim wasn't whether or not sperm is on trajectory to combine with an egg. The claim was whether or not sperm is on trajectory to have these sort of experiences or these sensory activities.
Yeah, it's on trajectory to fertilize an egg, and then that egg would be on trajectory to like that. Yeah, these are both on trajectory to each other, right?
Sorry, it's obviously the case that in the sperm.
Well, I don't know if what I'm doing is like super
the sort of potential there
irrelevant or something like that. I don't know what the sorry has to do with what I just said.
In the sense that it doesn't really have a capacity to change intrinsically or in virtue of itself.
Well, it does have a capacity to change.
Capacity to change only when some other action or some other thing is impeded on it, right? That's signified.
Some other action or some other thing is impeded on it. Is when it has the potential to change, which is also true of a fertilized egg, which is also true of a zygote.
Whenever you talk about the passive, the active.
No, it's also true of a fetus. That would also be true of a fetus in virtue of the fact that the mother has to continue eating food, right? They has to continue giving nutrients to it. Wait. Grow out of nothing.
Wait, do you think this is like, okay, do you think that the mother, gives the fetus its powers or capacities? Let's just say.
Is it its nutrients to be on trajectory too? Yes.
Sorry.
If you stop doing it, it would cease to have that trajectory. Yes. In the same way that if I stopped doing, listen, what the fuck are you doing? Let me answer the question, and then you can talk to me about how it's relevant. Okay?
Right now, right? I don't know why you're trying to play victim.
I'm not trying to play victim. I'm trying to ask you what the fuck you're doing. I'm trying to answer your question.
Whether or not the mother gives the fetus nutrients. The question was whether or not the fetus.
That's not what I was saying. I didn't say yes. The mother gives it nutrients. That was not a question I thought you asked. No shit. I was trying to answer a different question.
It has a perfective inclination towards certain types of powers or activities that it can engage in, or that it can change.
It's on a trajectory to do that, right? It's on a trajectory to have this qualia. No,
that wasn't. Wait, do you understand the question that I just asked you, or do you need me to repeat it?
The question you just asked me? No, I need you to repeat it.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna repeat it again. Hopefully, this time you don't interrupt me. Right? The question that I asked you was this: do you think that it is the case that the mother gives the fetus its power to become sentient in the future?
Yes. Trivially.
Okay,
of course it does, right? If the mother stops consuming food, if the mother was not there or something like that, yeah, it would not have the ability to become sentient in the future. Trivially, it is the case.
Wait, sorry, just to be clear, you understand there's a distinction between the mother giving the fetus nutrients to survive, let's just say, the same way that a mother needs nutrients for the newborn to survive, there's a distinction between that and the sort of powers that the fetus has or the newborn has. And
what do you mean by powers the fetus has?
Yeah, so by powers, I'm just talking about by powers, I'm just talking about certain types of change that could occur in the object,
certain types of change that could occur.
So when I say
the sperm has that power, right? That the sperm has the ability to have that change to occur.
Oh no,
it has that power in the same way.
So sperm doesn't have a potential, like I said previously, in the same way that a fertilized egg does. And the reason why this is the case is because there's a clear distinction between the sort of active potential of, let's just say, a fertilized egg, and there's a distinction between that and the sort of.
No, you said that the distinction was being on the trajectory of.
There's a passive potential.
The distinction was being on the trajectory of.
Reason why there's a passive potential.
Just stop doing. You had so much time to talk. I've said so little in the last I don't know, 5 minutes or something like that. Can you just allow me to press you on this one point, or are you too scared to get pressed on this one point that you want to have the entire floor for the rest of the time?
Fertilized egg actually does have the power.
Okay, so I know the answer to that question. You just want to have the floor. Okay, so I'm going to say the thing that I was going to say to the rest of the room. I'll just go on about it, and then again, I do have to go because I have my grandmother who is in the room next to me. No, it is the case that it is on trajectory in the same way that the sperm that I came into your mom's pussy is on trajectory to have this given experience in the future, right? These are potential things that could happen of this given entity. It has the power to do this thing.
Okay, so again, I don't know if you're like really confused on the distinction between active and passive potential, or if you're just like intentionally inept. And also, by the way, if my mother ever saw if my mother ever saw somebody like you on the street, she would actually laugh at you, right? So that's really embarrassing.
Well, I mean, apparently you think I'm a retard. I can only guess you're born of a retard.
Secondly,
so your dad's got to be at least a little similar to me, right?
Secondly, right? You keep making this I don't want to say category error, but you keep making this equivocation, let's just call it, on the type of potential that exists in the case of the sperm.
Yeah, I'm asking you to give the distinction of the potential
that exists.
Please give me the distinction of the potential.
Egg, all right? So I'll explain it for the last and final time. I'll explain it for the last and final time.
You're saying that it doesn't give the power to the actions this mother is taking.
Make sure you send a text to your mother.
In the same way, my grandmother, dog, you're going after my grandmother? She ain't hot like that.
On your way to your grandmother, give your mother a call and tell her that I'm on my way tonight to come see her, right? Now, secondly,
granny smasher. My sickly grandmother? You want to find sickly grandmothers?
The type of passive potential
You're fucking weird.
Passive potentials are just the types of things. I didn't say I was gonna fuck your grandma. I don't know why you keep saying that.
You're on your way to kill her?
Passive potentials. I said on your way to your grandmother. Call your mother and tell her that I'm on my way. That's what I said.
Oh, right? My grandmother to call my mother. Yeah. I don't know why the fuck I do that. I just have my mom's phone number. I know my mom, maybe you don't.
Your mother that Kay is gonna come see her tonight, right? Now, anyways, I don't know why you're trying to hyper-focus on this.
What is that doing?
Like really fucking irrelevant, like rhetorical point.
Yeah, it is really irrelevant. The fact you just went down that.
Is that the distinction between the active and the passive type potential there is that, the active potential is something that's, it's sort of intrinsic potentiality of the organism.
It's right? Intrinsic potentiality of the organism.
But in the case,
intrinsic here means what?
Sperm, right? The sperm.
And intrinsic here means what?
In the sense
and intrinsic here means what?
Would not be
and intrinsic here means what?
Actualize or change.
And intrinsic here means what?
Such that they would actually develop.
Please, just answer the question.
History experiences.
Please, I don't have time to listen to the podcast. Please
do that.
Please, and for the love of God, again, this is running really late in the night, dog. Dog, I've been here for like an hour. I've been here for like an hour. Yeah, and intrinsic here means what?
What was the question?
Holy shit. Intrinsic here means what?
Oh, I didn't hear you. Can you repeat the question?
Intrinsic here means what?
Oh, nice. I like when you listen to me. That's good. Right. So
yeah, I like when you have the ability to listen. Thank you.
Just calm down. Right. So when people are talking about intrinsic, generally, I think what people mean when they talk about intrinsic is just something that doesn't need a sort of external force to act on the type of change that occurs in the entity.
Well,
right.
You do need an external force to act.
In the case of the case of the fertilized egg, let's just say.
In the same way that like there doesn't need to be some external force with the sperm that's in your mother's pussy, right? That's the same way, right? It is the case that it continues onwards and there's no external force that acts on it other than that of the mother continuing to survive.
Look,
I'm sorry, this is the way that you were born, right? This is just how these things work.
You can just have your closing.
It's like obvious if you.
I don't think this is actually going to get anywhere. So you can just give your closing.
If you want to call it a debate here, we totally can. Yeah, super good.
Yeah. Go ahead and give your closing, and I'll give mine. That's fine.
No, I think you've had a lot of time to talk. I think that you want to continue talking. It seems like what you want to do.
So you don't want to
I want to hear what you have to say, apparently.
Oh, so you don't want to give a closing, is that right?
I don't want to give a closing at all? Yeah, absolutely, that's what I said. That's totally what I said, you fucking retard.
Okay, so if that's not what you said, then do you want to give a closing, yes or no?
Yes.
Go ahead and give your closing.
After yours.
Sorry?
I can do it after yours, right? You've been talking for a really long time. You seem to think that you haven't enough time to get things out. If you want me to give the first closing statement, I can do that, but it seems really strange that you now only want the last word.
Go ahead and give the closing statement. Go ahead.
Yeah, so whenever we're talking about, again, active and passive potential here, to have something act on it as well would be the same ways, like in the exact same ways that the mother's going to have to act on the sperm and the egg to be fertilized and continue living, right? The mother ceases to live, they're not going to have the potential anymore. In that same way, in the same way they have to continue to eat, they need to continue to survive. There is the potential there with the sperm that has already been within the mother, right? The sperm's already been within the mother, as in the actions have already happened, right? In that same way, where there's a continuation of the egg to be fertilized and to grow into a sentient living being, there's the ability for a fertilized egg to grow and continue on to be a sentient living being. But then it needs to act on it in the same way. And the mother has to continue to eat, they have to continue to survive, whatnot. That was like the entire point that I was trying to get out, I guess. I don't have much more for a closing statement. If you want to go on and rattle off whatever you want to rattle off, that's all good for me. And then I think we're chill.
Yeah. So finally, the point that he was making about he's trying to say that the sort of active, or excuse me, the passive potential can be applied in the case of the fetus, in virtue of the fact that the fetus also needs the mother's resources, which would be an external, let's just say, impediment on the fetus, such that the fetus can actually achieve these sorts of, it can change into a certain type of entity, right? Now, this is just confusion on the distinction between active and passive potential, right? It is not the case that the ability for the fetus to change into a sentient being, or into a being that has the respective powers, such as sensory capacities or sensory abilities. It is not the case that the mother